Natan today because we have Natan Nascimento, who, a brief introduction, feel free to add more, is a PhD nursing student who was able to come and visit Duke during the sandwich program from Brazil, and is going to present on something. The reason I'm excited is because Natan's going to present on something that's a little bit outside of our wheelhouse, but talking about a study protocol on phenotyping for neurodiversity. And this kind of cognitive phenotyping or kind of analytical phenotyping is something that I think a lot of us don't have much experience with. I had a little bit of a kind of qualitative phenotyping study that I was involved in a while back. So I'm really interested to hear on this kind of different topics. So take it away, Natan. And if you guys have questions, feel free to drop in the chat or we'll have a little bit of time at the end. Welcome.
Okay, thank you so much for the introduction, Ashley. I want to start off with a little bit of no, warning is the word I'm gonna use this one because I don't remember the correct word, but I'm at my grandma's house and sometimes you can hear some background noise and stuff, so just feel free to ignore it. The second thing is that I changed a little bit of the name of the presentation, but you understand in a bit. Let me share my screen. Can everyone see it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you see a lot of different names today here in the meeting. So this is the research group that we're starting here at UniCesumar, the university that I teach at. So I'm going to talk about today adolescent variations in executive neurocognitive testing and understanding through role play experiences. So the PI of this project is Letícia Forno, who's here today. The co-PI is Marcia Moroskowski, who's not here. The research team is Thaisa Teixeira, Catherine Silva, Marília da Mata, myself, and Anna Minkoff, who's an undergrad in psychology and a Bachelor of Language and Communication Studies that will be helping us with this amazing project. So a little bit of context, I try to create this presentation as a specific aims page. So you're going to see like a brief presentation as we are still developing this idea. So the first thing we want to address is what is neurodiversity? Neurodiversity is a concept that regard individuals with differences in brain function and behavior traits as part of normal variation in the human population. And that means everyone has a different way to function inside the brain. Everyone is wired different and functions differently. And that, of course, gets us to behave differently. We have different traits, we have different concepts, we perform better in some aspects and not that great in others. And that, of course, is something that we can sometimes learn, sometimes develop, and sometimes not. So neurodiversity is this concept of how the brain of everyone is different, and the subjectivity of everyone is based on these brain functions. It's important to know that as well as neurodiversity being a spectrum, there are a broad range of cognitive profiles within each of the neurodiverse disorders themselves. So when we talk about neurodiversity, we're talking about conditions that sometimes can be a little bit of hard to diagnose, a little bit of differences from what we expect someone to behave or to present themselves. And although we do have some similar traits and similar functions within the cognitive spectrum, there's also a lot of differences among themselves. So, taken as autism spectrum disorder, we have people that are verbal and people that are nonverbal. We have people that have um, meal selectivity, nutrition selectivity, not sure what the word is here, food selectivity, and some that are really, really selective, and some are not. Some doesn't even have food selectivity. So it's a broad range of cognitive profiles within each of the neurodiverse disorders themselves. Of course, we do have a lot of neurodiverse conditions, and it goes from autism to dyslexia to ADHD, giftedness, Tourette's, ADD, cultural diversity, and auditory processing. So, although we do have most of them present in both the DSM and the ICD, from DSM is the mental health diagnosis and statistical manual. So we have all the characteristics that define the diagnosis for mental health conditions, and the ICD is International Code of Disease. Neurodiversity conditions are easily missed uh, by healthcare uh, providers at young ages. So we have difficulties with the diagnosis, we have a stigma, we have challenges imposed on those under the neurodiversity umbrella. So the stigma is one of those that makes harder for us to diagnose, because sometimes we have parents that don't want this kind of diagnose for their children, uh, for their kids, for their adolescents, and then they say no, she's not like that, he's not like that, they are not like that. So the stigma makes it harder for them to go to the healthcare provider, the psychologist, the neurologist, the psychiatrist. The diagnosis itself is very difficult because sometimes those uh, diagnoses they overlap. So we can have twice exceptional with someone being uh, inside the autism spectrum and in the gifted as well. So that makes it even harder to differentiate which trait is from the autism spectrum disorder and which is from the giftedness or the ADHD or the ODD. Of course, that the neurodiverse persons themselves have some challenges because they don't feel fit in some social connections, in some spaces, in some settings, and that makes them not prone to get help on their diagnose. And sometimes, um, like when we talk about giftedness, we have those kids and adolescents that play with you when you're trying to test them to make sure that they won't have the diagnosis. And the standard protocol for this one is you do a scale called VISC, and if they play with the VISC and they say, okay, you don't have giftedness, you can only do that again after 5 years. And it's very expensive. So you have those challenges that the neurodiverse person can put on top of that. And that makes it harder for us as health providers, as teachers, as psychologists, psychiatrists, to understand and provide the best care. So we're talking about here is not just like, okay, we need to know if they have a diagnosis or a condition or a disorder. No, we're talking about if you are under the autism spectrum disorder, you have challenges that we can address, but we need to know that. And sometimes that doesn't happen, especially under racialized minorities, sexualized minorities, some diverse populations, marginalized populations that don't have the proper help on learning, on social skills, and changing on routines that would help them to uh, have those traits addressed. So what we propose a role play game as a neurodiversity diagnostic tool. We want that those games, we saw that those games can really help uh, with a different range of traits to be evaluated. So we created Adventure, Adolescent Variations in Executive Neurocognitive Testing and Understanding through Role-Play Experiences. We really want to address these diagnostics, but in a way that is going to be easier and is going to be better for us as health providers and for the adolescents themselves. So a role-play game is, for those that don't know, a game, usually a board game, that you have to create a character that have different classes, that have different um, powers, that have different traits, and you go into adventures that can be on medieval settings, that can be on cyberpunk, that can be on steampunk, that can be a lot of different things. And if you have any questions on that, you can ask João Vissosi because he's like a master of it, and it's the title Master. So the role-play game can help with this engagement in testing without them knowing it's really a test. So that takes off the stigma, that take off the challenges that the scales usually bring, and it's also something that we can analyze in the more comprehensive way, to make sure that we understand what we're talking about when we're saying, okay, this kid is under the giftedness spectrum. So yeah, okay, but how do you know? As we are creating the character, we have personality traits, we have intelligence as being defined, and we have strength, we have weaknesses, we have uh, planning, we have work memory, we have a lot of different traits that we can analyze on this spectrum. So it's a very great way for us to check to test different traits of behavior without the feeling the burden of being tested, which is something that we want to address in any other setting as well. So it's a 4-phase study. The first aim is to phenotype cognitive functions and behavior traits. So we want to use a number of scales and questionnaires to evaluate cognitive functions based on RDoC domains. So RDoC is NIH mental health tool concept that help us as researchers to understand better what we can do for research under mental health settings and issues. And the one doing this, leading this part is Anna Minkoff. She's an undergrad in psychology, and she will be doing the testing of a large number of adolescents to try to understand how each of the traits or the diagnosis, may I say, will have different traits, behavior traits, and cognitive functions. And after that, we will use latent class analysis and network analysis to phenotype those different neurodiverse conditions and establish parameters to diagnosis compared to gold standards such as VISC, that is today the gold standard for intelligence, and the DSM. The second phase and the second M is the developing of RPG scenarios that accounts for different aspects of cognition and behavior. So the second phase is the development of different RPG scenarios, which will include different tasks to evaluate the traits phenotyped in phase one. So we use those different phenotypes that we got in phase one and put it into the RPG scenarios, going from the very beginning on character development and creation all the way to the finishing of the game. We'll create up to 10 different short sessions that will be judged by psychiatrists, psychologists, teachers, and researchers with experience playing RPG. So we want to create as much as different sessions as possible, and those short sessions will be like, okay, we have 2 hours of this, and then we will be able to, after those 2 hours, finish the game and have a diagnose. Oh, and it'll still sound like, okay, 2 hours for a diagnose, that sounds a lot. But today, The average for testing sometimes is uh, 8 sessions of 1 hour. So we will have that time shorten it as well as the engagement into the testing get higher. So the aim three is the development of an app with a trained AI to phenotype the players. We want the AI to be a tool to help us to identify those traits because as we, as health providers, as psychiatrists, psychologists, or any type of uh, medicine, doctors, health providers itself, will have to master the game, will have to be there creating the stories as they go. AI will help us to get every single move or action played within the game analyzed. So the phase three will be the development of an app for therapists and adolescents to play RPG on which the choices will be analyzed by an AI trained by phase one data to phenotype those playing. So we want those that are playing being phenotyped as they play. So every single action, every single choice they make, they will have a different data collected, analyzed, and in real time get to the psychologist. The app will make decisions as the player goes through the scenario, gathering data and help the therapist to evaluate the lessons. So it will help us to get a real time understanding of how the adolescent is performing because it's something that we want and we need to evaluate. And up to the fourth phase, that will be RPG and app validation on real world settings. The fourth phase will be the validation of the RPG and the app link in the real world settings, specially linked in the unified health system. It's our it's our universal healthcare system. We expect to enroll up to 300 lessons for the validation of the two and the scenarios because we understand that it's something we really need a strong validation for that. And we want those adolescents to be from different background settings, from different types of disorders or spectrums as we can, because we want them to be really validated. And the first phase, the one we're closer to, and was the main topic of this presentation, is the cognitive phenotyping. So, what is cognitive phenotyping? When we're talking about phenotyping, usually we from healthcare providers, we go, or anyone in the biology will go to, okay, so we have phenotypes and genotypes. Genotypes is those on the genes that we can change, and phenotypes are those that are presented and we can change. And we use the same word to phenotype behavior, we use to phenotype cognition functions and such. We can group under the same characteristics. So phenotyping is this process of trying to get different uh, persons into the same groups that have shared the same behaviors, the same traits. So in this project, we will do cognitive phenotyping as well as behavior phenotyping. And the cognitive phenotyping will be focused on 5 of the 6 RDoC domains: negative valence, positive valence, cognitive systems, social system, and sensory motor systems. We want, because we understand that we have a wide range of spectrums, such as in autism or giftedness or ADHD, we want to address as much as possible on those domains. From each domain, we will choose the appropriate measures looking at physiology, behavior, self-reporting, and paradigms, because we can understand better if we have like heart rate. We understand better if we have ways to measure this how they are behaving through the game. So frustration, memory, language, attention, every single system that is important for us to evaluate and that can help us understand how they perform in the game that will help us to diagnose them later. So here's a RDoc frame. It's very interesting, sometimes very hard to do, but to do an RDoc research, we have to do that from scratch. So that's what we're trying to do. So this is just an idea, and we really want your vision on that, your perspective. So by the end of this project, we will have created a tool to help healthcare providers and psychologists and teachers to correctly identify and diagnose neurodiverse conditions such as ADHD, ASD, and giftedness. This project responds to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals 3, that is ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages, and 4, that is ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. And we have already a grant that we're trying to get funding for this. That is PPSU's grant, because they want applications of extended reality and AI on diagnosis and treatment on neurodevelopmental disorders. So this is what I wanted to talk about today. I hope I didn't get too long on this. I know it was like 20 minutes. So any questions you may have, you can ask now or send an email to Leticia Forno, who's the principal investigator, or me, who am the project coordinator of this project. Thank you.
Awesome. Please feel free to unmute or put in the comments if you have some comments, questions. Anything for Natan and the team who are here with us today. Or I can offer Leticia or other folks in the team if you want to add any final comments. I see some congratulations in the chat. So that's great.
Yeah, I was going to type my comment, but if nobody else wants to come up, I'll definitely say it. So I love this, Leticia and Natan, great job. This is amazing. I love to think about this neurodiversity component because as you talk, as a clinician, as you're talking to people, the way you talk to people has to change based upon what their level of understanding is, how they can get information, how they can receive and work with information. And I only see a patient for 7 minutes, right? Maximum. And so to be able to do that really quickly, you really have to understand if the person's on the gifted spectrum, if the person has ASD they're dealing with, if they have dyslexia, any of the above things will greatly impact your 5-minute interview. And so really thinking through what all of these are and how we quickly are able to assess and help us to gain knowledge to make that connection with the patient is really important. So really amazing topic. I think it's really interesting. And to do that through gamification, I think will be very cool. So really great idea. I look forward to hearing more about this amazing work.
Thank you. Yeah, it's something that we're trying to develop here because we understand Leticia is a special educator. So we were talking about and kind of got into this. So how can we identify in a way that we can really understand these adolescents and make them engage with the testing without them knowing that really a test? Because that's the challenge, the biggest challenge, in our point of view. Because today the tests are like for them to get really tested for like a good professional, because we have some testing that are like not great and gets really messy. It's up to $2,000. So it's not covered by insurance. So it's hard for them to get this, and to do that in healthcare settings or school settings would be like way better. So we really want to do this project and hope to get this funding because
Yeah,
it's something
for
we really
sure.
want.
And even when you think about it, there even at the gifted range, there are some people who take tests the wrong way on purpose because they are in that gifted range, right? And they know how to cheat the test and how to like win the system. Um,
Yeah.
Obviously that doesn't help us either, right? Because then it really isn't serving you. So being able to make it into a gamified process where you don't know you're being tested, I think is such an awesome idea. It's really nicely done.
Yeah, it's something that we were talking and we wanted to address as well because cheating on testing is something that the gifted does a lot. So Legis is a specialist on giftedness, so she it's something that she always reminds us. They cheat on tests, they cheat on tests, they cheat on tests. So yeah, it's something that we really take need to take care of.
Hi, Natan. Excuse me. Great presentation, great idea. I would like to know what we do to think about rolling playing games to make the new test. What we do today?
Sorry, I think I didn't understand the question. I didn't hear actually.
No problem.
Lead you to choosing role-playing games as the method to doing the testing?
Oh, okay, yeah, the role play games. It's because on role play games, it's something that is very dynamic, so it's easier to test through things that it's more, uh, it's like change a lot, so it doesn't like just choose this, choose that, choose this, choose that. You can create your own choice. You can create the action, and the adolescent, the kid, the children, and even adults can engage with that because they got into it. So they don't really expect to be tested in this kind of setting, this kind of game. But it's the best game that we can have to test because you have to create your character. So that goes personality, that goes attention, that goes memory, that goes a lot of traits. And then when you're playing, you have to make choices. And we want to know if you're paying attention to what the master is saying, if you're going into the easiest path, you're going to the hardest path, you're going to the path that wasn't even imagined before. So with that, the role play game can really make you feel um, that you're in the game for the adolescent and for the therapist and the one testing how they would behave in this such uh, areas of cognition and behavior. So if they face it with a challenge, how would they address? And that's what testing is about, because we want to understand, okay, so a gifted person would choose not only the hard path, but a path that is different from what we expect. So if they do that, we understand that, okay, so maybe he's leaning into the giftedness. And if we're testing about ADHD, we want to see if they really are paying attention and what kind of attention. And if they're paying attention to what the master says and everything that's going on, because there's a lot going on in a role play game, what can we expect from them to miss in this if they don't miss anything? So maybe that it's not something about attention, maybe something from memories, maybe something from engagement. So there are a lot of things that we can test while they make one single choice. And as they go changing the choices and making new choices, we can analyze more and more and more. So I think that um, what we were expecting with this is that they can engage and they can really be on that game, so we can really test everything that they do, like everything they do. We really want to expand it someday when we have money to do that, of course, and get some physiology as well. So like see how the brain waves change, or how the blood pressure change, because that also helps and is within the RDoc framework. So we really want to have all of that, the physiology part, but that would take some money. So we will start with the cognition and behavior, it's easier, and then go to the physiology part, because that's also something that we can understand and help like physicians to know if they, okay, so I saw this in the medical exam, what should we do? So yeah, I think that's it.
Awesome.
Thank you. You have a great future ahead of you, my friend.
Thank you.
Hi, Nata.
Okay.
Congratulations to the work for the work. Amazing project. It's like amazing. And but I have some questions because my husband play RPG and play Dungeons and Dragons and he is a master in the play. But when he beginning a new project, sometimes when the players need building them characters, um, it's like I spent 1 week building these characters. But you say you want to make this play only in 2 hours. And how will work in this? Because is the challenge when you're building one character is so huge, because the behavior, the language, the clothes, the other things, and how will work in this? Because when I saw 1 week, sometimes is a short time to building the character.
So we have a lot of things to discuss on this. Of course, we're open to change that to more sessions and such. But of course that we have two things to acknowledge on that. If we have an app that they can build a character prior to the session, they spend a lot of time doing that. But also we can measure something that is pressure and response to pressure. And that's something that we really want to test, because that goes to how they would respond in real world settings when they're under pressure. So if they have a pressure to do that in 30 minutes, so you need to create your character in 30 minutes, what will we do? So that's something as well that we want to test. So we have a lot, of course, to discuss and see what's the best path for us to go. But that is something that we can also evaluate as we are there. If they are put it into, okay, you have 10 minutes to create a character, you can choose this range of traits, and you have this character that you can change the clothes and such on the app. Do it. It's something that we can test and evaluate, and it will be good for us to understand if they have a good work memory, if they have paying attention, if they okay, so I work well under pressure, I can arrange myself in time so I can put my time to work. And so there's a lot of things that we really can evaluate in 10 minutes as they are creating the character. But of course we need to really evaluate that before we start building the game, because some spectrums like the autism or ADHD may have a difficult time with that. We really need to think about it. So thank you for the question. Thank you for the comment. And we'll talk more about that, but we really want to understand the pressure on that as well. So
Thank
Yeah,
you.
great.
Amazing.
Great question. I know we could probably stay and talk about this for hours, because it really is such there's so many different little points, little corners of this topic that are great, but we'll stop it there. And as Natan said, if you want to have some more information, there's the contact for Leticia and Natan. So let's thank Natan and the team for joining today. This was awesome. So thanks so much.
thank you.
All right. We'll get into our normal business. So you guys, the team who are visiting, you're always welcome to join us any Monday. But feel free if you need to go to another activity. I know this can be a little bureaucratic part of the meeting coming up. Let me stop. stop the recording.